The Jenn Royster Show is an inspirational hour with a focus on bringing hope to the world with the greatest healing energy known, divine love. Your host, Dr. Jenn Royster, is an internationally known intuitive spiritual counselor, energy healer, and visionary that will take you on a journey to explore the metaphysical world of healing within, the angelic realm, guided healing meditations, intuitive reads with callers, and interviews with guests that are making this world a better place. This program is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Hello, everyone. I want to wish everyone happy holidays and a happy new year that is just around the corner. I want to welcome you to the Jenn Royster Show. If you are a new listener here for our show, I'm Dr. Jenn, the host, and this is a live Dream Vision 7 radio network broadcast here at 1510 WMEX Boston. This show is heard every fourth Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also tune into my show on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Thursday at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern. And to learn more and for a full station broadcast schedule, go to dreamvision7radio.com. Now, we have a full show lined up for you today. I've been looking forward to this interview. I have an amazing gentleman that has really just gone for it. You know, we're all dreaming. We're all in that, I want that change. I know there's more to this story. Well, I've brought a guy on, and his name is David Christopher. He is a wonderful award-winning author, and he is the author of a book called The Holy Universe. And this is a fiction, but it's about what we're looking for, which I love. So instead of, going with the serious approach, he has really made this a magical and enjoyable experience about diving deeper into spirituality. So with that, I want to bring him on. I mean, he is, like I said, he's an author, a teacher, and he really had a passion for a new story that integrated with science. So this is going to take that approach with science and spirituality, and it's really combining. We're seeing more and more of that every day. So this is going to be a real treat to read this book. He became very intrigued with this about 15 years ago, and he was just like me. He was just like a lot of you that listen to this show. There's got to be more to this. Well, he did something about it. He took action. And with that, I want to bring him on because I want him to share this because he's got a lot he wants to share. We have a 1-hour show, and we never have enough time. And he's just ready and anxious, and this is going to be, his energy is dynamic. You can tell that he has such a passion for this. So with that, I would like to welcome David Christopher. Welcome, David, to the Jenn Royster Show.
Oh, thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, it's an amazing book. I mean, you took what we're all thinking about, okay? I mean, I can feel that. Now, I work with energy, so I can feel that a lot of times. And like I said, we go with what we're feeling in the now on this show. Now, you're taking the science, you're mixing it together, but you took what people are thinking and wondering about, and you took it to another level. You said, well, let's put this out here, and let's just do this. Let's make something happen here. So tell me a little bit about when did this desire just start to just feel magnetic for you, and you went into this? I mean, how did this all start?
Well, let's see, I could go back to the day that I was working for a corporation down in Silicon Valley in the San Francisco Bay Area, to the day where I was reading a particular book that talked about, that went beyond just personal spirituality, but what I'm realizing is a collective spirituality, a collective way of how are we connected to the cosmos. And I was reading a book called In the Absence of the Sacred, The Failure of Technology and the Survival of the Indigenous Nations. And I was reading this book, and I can still see the view outside of the beautiful corporate gym. I was actually on a stair stepper and looking out at a beautiful view of the bay and realizing that I was part of this corporate juggernaut that was destroying, that was damaging the natural world. And I realized that no matter how well I arranged my life, no matter how fulfilling my personal life was, that if we damage the larger ecosphere, if we damage the web of life, then we're in for a lot of physical misery. And that's the interesting thing, if I could take a quick little side thing, side path here, is that many of us have heard the term, we are spiritual beings on a human journey. And in the past few decades, we're awakening to the reality that we're also physical beings on a human journey. And we are not collectively taking care of our house very well. We're dumping pollutants into the atmosphere. We're dumping pollutants into the oceans. We're raising the CO2 levels to levels that haven't been seen for many hundreds of thousands of years. And that is what I think this time is calling us to, is to call us beyond just our personal spirituality. That work is very important, and that work should continue. I certainly believe that. But it's also, I think, the next step in our spiritual journey, in our collective journey, is to say, how do we take our spiritual passions and our spiritual growth and our gifts and tools, and how do we bring them out into the world that really needs people who are awake right now, who are awake to the pains and the sufferings of what's going on the planet, not only with just what the sage in the book calls the web of life, but also the people who are also part of that. How do we treat one another better? How do we look at issues of equity, as well as issues of ecology? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the larger picture that I found myself in. And as I left that corporation, which I did, I was just wandering. I was spending many days in the desert just having no real direction. And then, as you mentioned, about 15 years ago, I saw a mathematical cosmologist named Brian Swim and a Catholic nun named Sister Miriam McGillis talk about what they said was the new story. What science is now teaching us is that, and it's transcending the old scientific story of a mechanistic, mindless, spiritless universe, a meaningless universe, that the science is actually now agreeing with what we've known all along, that we are one. We are connected to each other. We're connected to the web of life. We're connected to the cosmos. And the science is now proving that to be true. And what I wanted when I wrote this book is I wanted to hear this story because I love this story. It started giving me a sense of direction and meaning. But I also wanted it told in a poetic way, and I felt that was missing. So that was really the road that took me down, that I found myself on, and realizing that, I want to see this story in the world, and I want to see it as a story, not about the story, but the story itself. So I decided to just go ahead, let's see what comes out of that, and with some encouragements of some of my mentors.
And there was a lot that came out.
It was a surprise to me.
It just kept going and going. I mean, no, he's not kidding. I mean, this just started flowing, and it is poetic.
Yes.
It's like a dance of the pen in an art form, like the poetry does. And all art or all writing is an expression, an art form. And you took that angle of that. So it's like the modern Shakespeare. I mean, it really is. And you read it, and you feel like you're reading something just very elegant and very beautiful, but you're reading this incredible story of a new creation. Mm-hmm. And
just to give a little more context, too, as you said, it is a book of fiction. It's a fictional dialogue between two people, a seeker and a sage. And actually, Khalil Gibran's The Prophet was one of my models in the dialogue that the prophet had with the people. And I really like that form, and I use that, as I said, as a model. And so through this dialogue between the seeker and the sage, the story of creation comes out as this is one of the most important things. What is the largest story that informs all other stories? So looking at looking at the seeker's problems, the sage says, well, let's look at your story, because I don't think you have a really good story. I don't think you have a really good creation cosmic story. So let's start with the biggest story of all. When we go back 13.8 billion years ago to the beginning of the universe, and then the story progresses through this poetic telling of the creation of the universe, the creation of galaxies and stars, and then planets around second-generation stars, and then life on our planet, and then the emergence of the web of life, all the way up to the emergence of humanity and what the sage calls ancient mind and then modern mind, and the now emerging planetary mind. So it gives us this larger context of we are attached to this 13.8 billion year story, and that I think would be helpful for us to have as our backdrop for when we look at what do we do to face the challenges that we're facing today, because they are enormous. And it's a shift in worldview and consciousness.
It is, yeah. Yes, and there's so much changing, even though we're seeing so much that doesn't want to change, or it's resisting so much of it. But the change is there. I mean, it's coming. It's there. Well, it's happening every day. Yeah, it is.
I mean, just on a physical level. Even though it seems that gas prices are dropping, we are running out of the easy fossil fuels that are to get. And in our civilizations, our societies are formed on inexpensive, cheap fossil fuel. And that's why we're seeing such wild spikes and troughs in fossil fuels. That, well, as they go too high, people stop doing it, and it goes low, and it goes up and down and up and down. And that's just a sign that we can't continue to burn energy the way that we're burning it.
Correct.
Major change. And the good news is it's not like this is really making all this consumption that the story of modern mind insists on. That the bad. Right now our job is to be consumers, is to consume things. It's not as if this way we're running our lives collectively really making us that happy. So it's not as if we're giving up anything by really going back and reconnecting with ourselves and with each other and with the web of life.
And the web of life, I like that you're saying the web of life. I really connect that way and relate. When you start to go into this type of awareness, I mean, a world that you were missing, just all of a sudden you're realizing there's so much more that you weren't noticing, that you weren't feeling, you weren't going into a depth of it. And that's a lot of what I'm hearing in what you're saying. It just you're going in and feeling a little bit more than just walking across the lawn. You are feeling a whole lot more of a connection with that. As an example that I'm saying, I mean, now your fiction is kind of, a new creation. So you're looking at this is a fiction of a world that can replace what's here now. That would be an improvement, a better way of life. Is that what it is?
Transformation.
A complete, quite a bit. And it is a lot. It's not like, okay, tomorrow we're going to wake up and it's going to be completely different. It is gradually changing. I mean, it is, even though we see so much that is seeming very frustrating. That, to me, is part of the changes, because, that's the first sign that something's, starting to affect it, because it starts kicking up its heels. And, you're doing that. You're talking about that, where you're changing and replacing with something that will take us into this next phase of humanity, which is a much higher consciousness that's connected. Right? Yeah, absolutely. So now, just so we, I would love to do that quickly before we were going to break. I would love to hear a little bit about, is there some section of the book that you could read so they could hear you do that?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I would love for them to get a feel of, especially when the author is reading, that what they wrote. That's the best part. So they could hear a little bit about this poetry, because it's really beautiful to read.
Okay, all right. Well, yes, what I'll do is I'll go, as I already set it up a little bit as far as the sage and the seeker coming together. and the sage saying that let's start with the biggest story of all. Let's go back 13.8 billion years and start telling the story at that point.
Okay.
And so this is the story that the sage tells.
Okay.
And it begins with the infinite and the creation of the cosmos. And it takes about 2 minutes or so to read. It was the beginning of all beginnings. It was a time of no time, for time did not exist. A place of no place, for space did not exist. It was a beginning like no other, for there was no before. There was no time, there was no place. There was only the infinite and the unfathomable mystery. And the unfathomable mystery was all that was to be. And all that was to be was small, smaller than the tiniest particle in the tiniest atom in the tiniest dream, although there was nowhere from which to see how small all that was to be was, for there was no outside and no inside, no here, no there, no now, no then, no darkness, and no light. There was nothing save a whisper of what might be, an infinitesimal, indescribable, unfathomable mystery. And out of the unfathomable mystery, the infinite called forth to itself. It called forth space. It called forth time. It called forth being. And in that ecstatic instant, the universe slammed exploding outward into existence with a jubilant and breathtaking beauty, brightness, energy, violence, power, and glory of a trillion newborn stars. It was a perfect explosion. 1 trillionth of a second slower, and the universe would collapse back into itself unfulfilled. 1 trillionth of a second faster, and the universe would spin out, dissipating into nothingness, never to create galaxies, stars, planets, life, nor us. A perfect explosion. And in the instance of this perfect explosion, the infinite began a brilliant and fierce cycle of gloriously creating, violently destroying, and gloriously creating once more, as if it knew what it was doing. So that's the beginning of the story that the sage tells. And for those of your listeners who might be interested, the rest is actually on the website. They can go take a look and see the rest of it, and there's actually a download of this chapter too.
Oh, that's great. And the website is The Holy Universe, right?
The Holy Universe, yeah. H-O-L-Y, theholyuniverse.com. Yes, very easy.
Yes, that's. Thank you for the easy URL. Some of them are not so much. Now, I was following, and I just had my eyes closed while I was listening to that. So
it's not unusual. It's very interesting.
Oh, I hope the drivers kept their eyes open.
Well, yes, okay, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. But it is interesting how when I will read to a group, more than one person typically will close their eyes. There's something about poetry that, for whatever sad reason, it's kind of taken a back seat in our culture. And there's actually, and I've rediscovered this myself, I really wasn't that much of a person who liked poetry until recently, until I realized, wait, this is a very powerful way of saying with words that is very difficult to say just in a straight left brain way. Mm-hmm. That there's so much power in having a metaphorical story, in really having a poetic telling that can unlock more than just one's mind, but also one's heart, their soul, their psyche. That's what I really have found to be valuable with poetry.
Well, to me, it's music without the musical tone. Mm-hmm. It's the words, but it's music. It's like music, because a lot of songwriting is poetic, exactly. Except it has the tunes to it. But this, and a lot of people close their eyes with music as well. Mm-hmm. But this just takes you into that creative side of the brain. And I think that's what, for me, it took me right there, and I'm very much creative in an artistic way with painting. So I went there, and I was creating all of these amazing pictures as you were reading. So I'm sure that other people, would do the same thing. Now, you were taking it into that about, okay, we went through that creation, and then now we don't seem to be happy with any of it,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's like, okay, well, and that's the beauty of transformation. If you can change you can change the direction it's going by what we do now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest part of it, from what I'm hearing from what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, the story that we've been given, the story of modern mind, is just, it doesn't serve. It's one of separation. The old story of the ancient mind was one of deep connection with the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
And now this story of modern mind, it's a story that says we are disconnected, that the universe is dead and we're on an insignificant rock. And that story, it served us in some ways, but it is no longer serving us. So it is time to start looking at a new story, and that's what this that's what the sage is talking about.
And so the seeker is just like our minds are doing. That's where a lot of people are now. They're looking for a better way, the happiness. We're feeling it. Even people that don't even know, or they're just finding themselves on this journey, they're getting there. They're going into that desire within their heart, within their soul. So on that note, we're going to take a short break here, and when we come back, we're going to keep going on with the Holy Universe, this amazing poetic story about how we can have a better life, and we can change it now. My guest tonight is David Christopher. You're listening to The Jenn Royster Show, and we will be right back after the break.
Join Dr. Bernie Siegel on Mind Health Matters every first Sunday at 8 p.m., all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. Bernie will draw from his inspirational personal journey, offering us special nuggets of his sacred wisdom. Listen in as Bernie reminds us to be fully engaged in life.
The Dream Vision 7 Radio Network presents Kids for Love. Join Deborah Beauvais and her young co-hosts and celebrate kids making a difference. We invite other kids to join in for spirited conversation filled with creative ideas and possibilities to start your own mission. Let's raise the bar together and cultivate a kinder world by getting inspired to help others in need. Kids for Love Project, celebrating kids that empower others. Callers into the show are in a drawing. It's every first Saturday at 2 p.m.
Join us every second Sunday at 7 p.m. for Living on Purpose with Carolyn Romano, where we explore the mysteries, meaning, and sometimes madness of life. Let's figure out together the ways we're meant to serve and become the fullest expressions of our most authentic selves. Let's figure out together how to create lives of balance, abundance, and joy. This program is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Are you overwhelmed by other people's energy? Do you constantly suffer with emotional drain, exhaustion, or physical illness? You may be highly sensitive to energy and not aware of your powerful connection to spirit. Dr. Jenn Royster is an intuitive spiritual counselor and energy healer that works with the angelic realm and has helped thousands of empathic souls successfully release negative energies, reclaim their personal power, and thrive. Life is to be enjoyed, not just endured. Book your private phone session today at JennRoyster.com.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Saturdays 2 to 3 p.m. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Saturday 2 to 3 p.m., all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
J.T. Lewis is the big brother of Jesse Lewis, who died in Sandy Hook Elementary on December 14, 2012, while saving the lives of 9 of his classmates. J.T. found comfort after Rwandan orphan genocide survivors reached out to him from their country to express their condolences and share their personal stories of tragedy and healing. Inspired by the love that was shown to him, JT started Newtown Helps Africa, a nonprofit organization that helps young people in Africa and beyond who've suffered personal tragedy and have shown resilience. He successfully sent one young Rwandan woman to college for 4 years and plans to do much more, all the while inspiring many young people around the world to turn hardship into an opportunity to make the world a better place. Link on to newtownhelpsrwanda.org.
Life. We can either be bystanders or creators. Now is the time to awaken to your divine identity and the power of the I Am within, to create a joyous and fulfilled life, no matter what your circumstances are. There are answers to life's big questions, and there is a spiritual path that leads to soul liberation and ascension. Join us every third Sunday of the month at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for Prophets for the New Age with Carl and Nancy Showalter on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Join us on Creating a Spirited Life with Janet Kesenick the third Sunday of every month at 8 p.m. We'll explore the day-to-day moments that puzzle, enlighten, and bring us into deeper connection with our best selves. Find meaning, purpose, and humor while creating a spirited life. This program is part of the Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
Money makes us react. It has a way of eliciting an immediate response. From our home life to our own business environment, money is usually front and center. For CPA Jane Hoenick and psychotherapist Spencer Melnick, the debate is not about what you do with your money. It's about how you feel, react, and interact when it comes to money. Join us at 6 p.m. on the fourth Sunday of every month to explore the money dynamic, part of the Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
And we are back. I'm Dr. Jenn. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Jenn Royster Show. I'm with the Dream Vision 7 Radio Network here on the 1510 Boston station. So I got all my words tangled up. I've just been in this deep thought because my guest tonight is David Christopher, an author of a wonderful book called The Holy Universe. And we were sharing before we went off the air, and he read some of it. It's very poetic. It's about changing, about a new universe, more, connecting into that religion and spirituality with science, and just let's make this a better place. If you want to simplify what we're saying. And David, you were going to share some interesting things when we came back on the air. There's so many things you're sharing, so I'm going to let you choose which one, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't even know what to ask you first, because you had so much you want to share.
Well, one thing we could do is people will ask, well, what is this new story, and what's the story it's replacing? And the story that it is replacing, we touched on that earlier, is that the story of modern mind really is telling a story that that we're separate from the universe, we're separate from each other. There really is no meaning. This is the old mechanistic scientific story. And as I said, the new science that is coming out, the cosmological science, is really waking up to the fact that, this is a very mysterious universe. It's an amazingly creative universe. It's a seemingly intelligent universe. And so this is the science that is informing this new story. Mm-hmm. And just to give a flavor for this age at one point talks about this overarching story that planetary mind is now creating for itself. Planetary mind being the new worldview that is replacing that old worldview of modern mind. Mm-hmm. And the sage says this: the creative force of the infinite flows throughout and embraces the universe, whole and complete, ever-changing, ever creative, and ever destructive, as the infinite plays and dances, as it seizes catastrophe to create anew, as it yearns for ever greater order, ever greater complexity, ever greater consciousness, and ever greater elegance, as it drives itself toward life. We are thus made in the likeness of the infinite. It has always been thus. We never were separate. We can awaken to a deeper communion with Earth, know and love our place within her web of life, rejoice in her, and share in her bounty. And we do so with gratitude, respect, and humility, for we know that while we have learned much, there is still much to learn as planetary mind awakens within the holy universe. So that is what, the excerpt I read before in this excerpt actually is based on science. If you analyze these pieces from a logical, rational point of view, you could find the science that is actually informing it, especially the beginning of all beginnings piece. I mean, it really does follow the physics of this is what happened at the Big Bang, and this is what happened over time. And that's what I really enjoyed about this, is really, all right, how do you fit the puzzle pieces that this analytical science is giving us, and how do we turn that into story? How do we turn that into metaphor? So that kind of gives you a flavor of what the sage talks about as far as, well, this is the new story that is emerging out of the science.
And, you perfectly explained how that left brain is finding its way over that bridge to the right side, if you want to look at it that way. From the science side, the left brain, right brain working together, because we have both, right? We have both.
And we need both.
Yeah, we do. And when you only are shutting out, or you're shutting out one side and only using analytical or left, or even just the opposite, if you're only using the other, there's not a balance.
Yeah.
And we need, just like you're saying, we need both. So this is a way to help, like if you're trying to get over to that side, that poetry naturally kind of takes you there. Just does. It opens that door. It's gentle. It's not pushing you down a path that you don't want to go. You just find it's an enjoyable ride. Gentle. It feels gentle, non-threatening is what I'm trying to say. And right now, I feel like that's what people need. They need to know that there are options, and we can do something.
Yeah,
we can do a lot, and
that's part. And that is definitely part of the new story. Is that yes, we belong here, but we also there's a lot of that belongingness also carries with it a deep responsibility. That our actions have consequences, individually and collectively. And that we need to, in a way, it's as if modern mind needs to grow up out of an adolescent attitude into a new attitude, into a way of, we're adults now. We have to really take responsibility for the effects that we have on creation, on the web of life, and on each other. So that is definitely a big part of the new story, too.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you go into this seeker sage, right? This whole thing is the seeker. I mean, a lot of us are in that position. We feel like that, like we're looking and we just feel like something else is out there. Can you tell us a little bit about how this can help, or this people that are in that phase, or what they feel like that. They may feel isolated. They may feel like they are the seeker.
Yes.
How can this be, just a really nice companion for someone like that?
Well, one of the hopes I have is through this book and also through some of the programs that I'm beginning to offer, like an online book club and other programs, is that it's important for those of us who are awakening to not only their personal spirituality but to the collective spirituality, and trying to figure out, well, where do I fit here? Where do my talents fit in? One of the more common things that happens to folks is that they feel very isolated. They feel very alone. They care about things that the major media outlets don't care about. Our job now, it seems, according to the major media, is to be a consumer. To go get the latest iToy or the latest celebrity gossip or the coolest car. And, that's not to denigrate entirely all those useful things. I mean, they are useful in some sense, but they're not the end-all, be-all. They're a means to an end, and we've forgotten the end. And so when you start to awaken to that reality and look at it and say, I don't want this corporate job, or I don't want to want my talents to go this way, people look at you very funny because you're not playing the game. You're not in the old story of my life. So it's very important for people to understand that, yes, it can feel very lonely, and you really need to find your comrades, your compatriots, your colleagues who also feel that. And then they're out there. They're very much out there and waiting for you, too.
And they're welcoming that because they want to meet others like-minded as well, because
and there's important work, and there's important work to do. I mean, this book is for folks who are spiritual but not religious, but also who really want to use their spiritual growth and their talents and whatnot and channel them into either ecological projects or social justice projects. And one of the things I tell people is that this book is for people who are spiritual but not religious, and who also compost, and who really think it's important to compost,
right.
Or who, for instance, maybe work in a restorative justice program, or do something with that. Their being is calling to a much higher purpose that transcends the work that they've done as spiritual beings so far. Mm-hmm. So this is what this book is, and my work is I'm passionate about, is how do we connect that, and how do we start working on those things that really are calling for us to do.
Absolutely. And I like that you put that out there, like targeting, specifics about, the inspiration that this book has for someone and their passions and what they want to do. Because we do. When you really start really connecting with, that spiritual side of us, I call the higher self, our soul side, no, it's not going to follow mainstream. No, it's not going to do that. I mean, I have felt that with every new step I took to a higher level. I call it higher level or a higher frequency, whatever you want to call it. But people, you start to find that, I don't feel so, it's very supportive energetically when you know that there's others that have the same passion and want to do the same things you do. It's very important to have that. At the same time, knowing that you can stand on your own, knowing that you can trust in yourself. But it really does help to know that there's others out there.
Oh, yeah.
And we want to find each other. We want to do that, absolutely. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, I want you to share some of these projects and all these things you got going on and your website and things like that when we come back. Absolutely. Yeah, this is I know, it always goes fast. This is a great book, guys. You're listening to the Jenn Royster Show. I'm Dr. Jenn with my guest this evening, author David Christopher of The Holy Universe. We'll be right back after the break.
Join us every fourth Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern for the Jenn Royster Show with your host, Dr. Jenn, on a spiritual journey inward where hope and love bring healing to life's greatest challenges. Enjoy metaphysical topics, intuitive angel reads, guided healing meditations, and inspirational interviews. This program is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Tune in every first Sunday at 6 p.m. for Maximum Success, the Coach Bruce Show. You'll learn success strategies to take your game to the next level from performance consultant John Brubaker. Maximum Success explores why winners win and teaches you the keys to peak performance. This program is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Invite the Kids for Love Project, an enrichment program, into your school, classroom, or wellness center. Kids for Love Project is focused on teaching kids unconditional love for self and others. The project is a journey into self-discovery. It consists of fun, creative tools to learn self-love, like I choose love, I am love, I stand in love, and utilizing one's energies with reconnective healing and tuning into one's intuition for inner guidance, plus connecting to our natural surroundings. Kids who hold love for self do not bully or harm others. Let's cultivate a kinder world that holds compassion for all. teaching the power of love to our kids is the way. To learn more or to bring Kids for Love project to your school, contact Deborah Beauvais, 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to our Kids for Love project on Facebook.
Join the Mind Health Coach with Leah Marie every fourth Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Come explore with us natural and healthy ways to achieve inner peace, happiness, and an ever-present state of well-being. You're already healed. You just haven't realized it yet. When you're ready, you can change your mind and change your life forever. The power of a beautiful life is within you today. Mind Health Coach with Leah Marie is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Are you overwhelmed by other people's energy? Do you constantly suffer with emotional drain, exhaustion, or physical illness? You may be highly sensitive to energy and not aware of your powerful connection to spirit. Dr. Jenn Royster is an intuitive spiritual counselor and energy healer that works with the angelic realm and has helped thousands of empathic souls successfully release negative energies, reclaim their personal power, and thrive. Life is to be enjoyed, not just endured. Book your private phone session today at JennRoyster.com.
Edesia is a U.S. nonprofit dedicated to the dream of ending childhood malnutrition for millions of children around the world. Through the manufacture of Plumpy Nut and other nutrient-rich, peanut-based, ready-to-use foods, Edesia has already delivered life and hope to nearly 1 million children in over 26 developing countries. To find out how you can join Edesia's dream of ending childhood malnutrition, please visit edesiaglobal.org.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to the Jenn Royster Show. I'm Dr. Jenn. My guest this evening is David Christopher. He's the author of a wonderful, beautiful, poetic written book called The Holy Universe, and it's about, the change, what we are looking for in today. We know we need something different. We know we need to improve what we're doing. It's not working the way we used to do it. This book is all about that, and it's really incredible. And before we went to break, David, you were sharing about the seeker. We were talking about how the seeker will connect with some of the people listening out there. But the seeker is talking to the sage in the book. So can you tell us a little bit about the sage?
Well, one of the most important points that, and a spoiler alert for your, I'm not going to give away all the surprises, but I will, this is a spoiler alert for some of your readers, is that very early on, the first part of the book, and anytime I do a presentation, I don't reveal the fact of the sage's gender. And I found that when people were reading my book, the first manuscripts, and about 15 pages in, they came into the first use of the word she to describe the sage. Nearly all of them circled that word and said something to the effect of, "Oh, I didn't realize the sage was a woman." One person said, "Silly me! I thought it was a man." Another person was she was kind of upset, saying, "You really should let us know ahead of time that the sage is a woman." And I almost bought into that until I realized, well, wait a minute, why? Why is it that we have to? It's okay to not identify the sage as white or male, or whatever picture a person tends to get. But if I go counter to that, how come it's important to identify that ahead of time? Mm-hmm. And the reason why I think this is such an important issue is that our assumptions about who can be in charge about what is important. All of those are unexamined assumptions, and they're very deep in our cores. So sometimes when I'm reading out loud to a group, I'll say the word she, and you actually see a ripple in the room of people going, oh, wait a minute. And it's that physical, and the important thing is that physical ripple shows you how physically deeply embedded our assumptions are about only men can be sages.
Mm-hmm.
And this is vital. This is a vital point, that that's not true. And where does that come from? And what other unexamined assumptions does a person have? And do we collectively have in our bodies that need to be challenged and changed as we shift our worldview? If we don't bring in a feminine aspect, not to drop off the entire masculine aspect, that's not useful. Right. To balance it with the feminine aspect of how are we going to live in a world that has a fragile web of life. That if we damage it any further, we are endangering our species, literally.
So you must bring in like the nurturing.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
that has to start coming into our consciousness. And as I speak that, and I'm speaking about the modern mind, our modern society, our larger stories, these are not attitudes that are unfamiliar to us for those of us who consider themselves of ancient mind or indigenous mind, that we've known this all along. The planet is our mother. Everything, food, shelter, clothing, everything, air, comes from her grace, is given to us. Mm-hmm. And so to refer to her as a resource would be like calling your mom a resource. I mean, I think the proper word is bounty, mm-hmm. which has a sense of humility, a sense of a gift, a sense of gratitude that is wound up in that word that I think is much more appropriate.
Well,
that's
I love that. I do. I love that. But, quickly, I want to say while you were sharing that about, mm-hmm. Whatever you want to call it, the divine feminine, that type of feminine energy coming into this, what we're talking about is the birth of something new. Yeah. New. I mean, that's going to be, a feminine, beginning thing, because that just makes sense. And that was where I was like, it makes sense. As we are evolving in humanity together, things that are birthed, that's going to need to have, maybe go that way. But it isn't to get rid of the male energy. Like you said, I totally agree with that. I really feel that balance, the balance is vital and important. And I would love for the world to start to feel sensitive to that. Mm-hmm. I really like what you were saying with that. I actually felt that before. I've actually felt that because I'm an ordained spiritual minister, so I perform weddings, and my husband will mm-hmm. go with me, and they assume he's the minister. So I understand. I was like, oh, yeah, I relate to that. Now, but, I want to make sure everybody knows how they can find you and all the things that you were talking about earlier that you have on your website. And your website is theholyuniverse.com, and that's the HOLY universe.com. Mm-hmm. So what could they find over there? What do you have over there for the?
Well, I let people know how to, if they're interested. Obviously, if they're interested in buying the book, they can find out about how to buy it there. And actually, for the live listeners, I always encourage people to go to local bookstores and support local bookstores, because even though you're paying you're paying a little bit more, that money is actually helping local institutions that I think are very important to a community. So, just doing a quick search, the Trident Booksellers Cafe in Boston, the Brookline Booksmith. I actually did when I was at the Harvard Coop. I did a presentation there. Pandemonium Books and Barbara's Bestsellers. There's a lot of independent bookstores within the Boston area that a person can go to. They can call and see if it's in stock. If it's not, they can order it. It'll be there in a couple of days. And if they want, they can also just order it directly through me. And then, of course, it's available on Amazon, too. But I do encourage people to support local bookstores. So that's one of the things. I also have, social media presence. People will ask questions online or through the website or in social media. Mm-hmm. Doing quite a bit on Twitter more and more, where I'm sending out little graphics that illustrate some quotations out of the book.
Ooh.
We're working on actually making them more available to folks as desktop wallpapers. So if there's a particular And I'm actually taking requests, too. If there's a particular quote that people like, we can very easily put one together and put it out there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I also have a book club, call-in book club for people who are interested in diving more deeply into the book. And we gather together and talk more about some of the nuances of the details.
And that's something that is, pretty much anywhere you live. That's on the phone, or
yes, it's a call-in book club. So it's typically in the evenings in the U.S. time zone, so 5 o'clock Pacific.
And all of that is on your website, all the information. You also, that segment that you were reading earlier, you said the rest of I think you said the rest of the chapter, they could go and see that?
Yes.
Okay.
There are also other excerpts that I have available, too, that I put on that are posted on the website, too. So if people want to check out a little bit more, they can get a sense of the two characters, too. So.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. Now, I want to first say thank you for everything you're doing and listening to your heart and listening to your soul and that spiritual connection and you're just doing it. I want to say thank you to you for what you're doing for all of us as humanity together. And on that note, if you had one thing you could leave with the listeners as a thought, what would that be? What would that one thing, if you only could say one thing, what would it be?
To remember that we are connected to the cosmos, that we belong here. We're not fallen, we're not flawed. That those are old stories. The science is beginning to recognize that we are an integral expression of this apparent vast intelligence and creative force, that we belong here. And also that our actions have consequences, and it is time for us to really start embodying this story on a day-to-day level, both individually and collectively. I think fantastic things await us as we move outside of just manifesting for our own lives to include manifesting for our communities, our nations, and manifesting for Earth herself.
Absolutely. That's absolutely. And I really encourage everyone to go check it out. Go to the website, check it out. It's really beautiful. I've looked at it. I've been reading some of it. Just listening to him read it during the show with my eyes closed was even better. So I have to say that really was. You're going to be asked to just go read a lot. You know that. Because it's just,
It already happened, yeah.
Yeah, you could feel that energy. And, there's all those poetry clubs that do that kind of stuff. And you just sit there and listen to it, and you can feel that your soul is resonating with it. Because our souls know, that part of us that's real knows that it's time for us to, do something, take action. And the beautiful part is it's a simplifying, taking out the chaos, connecting and at that peaceful level of what we know to be real. And it actually is simple. It's more simple than it is complicated. Wouldn't you say, David?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's a beautiful thing. So go check it out, theholyuniverse.com, David Christopher, and it was wonderful having you on the show. For those that have missed most of the show, we always have the archives. You can catch it again Thursday at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. on DreamVision7Radio.com. Also, I have all the links to everything here that we're talking about, and also to David's website at my website, JennRoyster.com, JennRoyster.com. And you can also sign up on my newsletter for things that are coming up, and let us know what you think, because we're all in this together. And I also want to wish everyone, we're going into 2015 here in a couple of days. So I want to wish everyone with intention, on a positive note, intend for it to be a positive year with the things that we need to do as a collective consciousness and humanity together. So thank you for listening, every one of you. I wish everyone blessings and much love. in your lives and everything that you're doing in your own fashion. You mean a lot to me, and I have much gratitude for all the listeners on this show. You've been with me for a while, some of you, so thank you for being with me. You keep me going. Much love, and I'll see you next year. Namaste.
You've been listening to The Jenn Royster Show, part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. Join us every fourth Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern for a spiritual journey inward where hope and love bring healing to life's greatest challenges. Learn more about Dr. Jenn and pick up your free meditation gifts at JennRoyster.com.